respected expert in the field of manufacturing technologies, who has earlier joined us in previous session as well as left a lasting impact with his insights. Today, he will be speaking on pedagogy, art of teaching and learning, a topic that will truly inspire our connected faculty members for a more innovative learning and leadership. Sir, we are delighted to have you with us once again, and I invite you to the session.
Very good afternoon to all those who are assembled here to listen to me. Now, what I'll be saying is that the teaching learning process, we have to understand a little bit about how do we learn, and then normal traits of teaching that also we will be seeing. And then we will try to see that how best you can implement your teaching activities. Now, why is it there that at the last I'll say, fundamental question is very simple, that if you are a teacher, then the very question is that why a student will come to learn from you, because a lot of information are available in the open source. So therefore, it's very important that the student, the learning process through you as an accelerator or facilitator, that is a challenge behind for a particular teacher. अरे ये होगा नहीं, रखो ना उधर में, कुछ नहीं होगा, मैं क्या मर जाऊंगा क्या, उसको रखो, मैं नहीं बोलूंगा 1 घंटा में, चलो रखो. So as I said, that learning is basically essentially a scientific event. That is a neural function, and then it is a consequence of experience. I will also tell you the sequence of learning, and then basically our brain is instrumental in learning. And then, as I said, that human brain is the learning system. Whatever the learning system is there in the human brain. The next class I'll be saying that how do we really simulate that thing. So the artificial learning, I'll talk about that in my next class. Then it is like this, that as I said, that what do we do? Normally our brain tries to recognize a pattern. So in a pattern, nothing we are doing. Suppose this is A, so A or B. So whatever be there, basically someone is there to get it ingrained in your mind that basically this kind of look is B. So this is that means you have to capture the pattern, and then the pattern, some auditory term is there. So once you hear those things, then you know. So that's how we learn. So by that, whenever you will be activating your brain, you will gather more and more knowledge. You see that our two brains are there. One is a left brain, the other one is a right brain. It functions only the analytical part of it. That means it is the mode of operation is it's a verbal, it's a sequential. There are accuracy is also there. It responds to logic. It plans ahead. It processes the information linearly. So non-linearity is not there. The process the information linearly, and it speaks with few gestures. So whenever I'm talking with this gesture, so this is being dictated by my left brain. So and then the sequential, the accuracy. Whenever you'll be learning, this accuracy is there. There's a right brain is there. What right brain does? The global aspect of learning is taken up by the right brain. It is again visual. So a pattern is shown. So that is a function of the right brain. And then it responds to emotion. It responds to emotion. Whenever you are getting emotional with a new thing, so that's the right brain which is responsible for this. Now, this is one thing. Then the less punctual. Right brain is not punctual to the time. It doesn't work that way. So it is a little bit, loses that. But the thing which it does is very important, that it does not process the information sequentially. no order is there. So it's a feeling or the creativity is dictated by the right brain. Because or if you find that some creative person, they do not really go on thinking incremental manner. All on a sudden they think something new. So this is a function of this right brain. And the gestures when speaking. So that is also the common thing. Impulsive. Right brain is highly impulsive. Immediately react. Right brain act, it makes you react immediately. So whenever that is there. Why? It is not some meaning that I am delivering something, say, and then you immediately react. So what is this? So that is your right brain is doing that. Now, as I said now, the thinking processes which are inherited from the different brains. The logical thinking is a one which is given by the right brain. It is sequential, and then it's rational, it's analytical, it's objective, and looks partial. ये क्या हो गया भाई, इसको काटो ना, हाइट का सर्टिफिकेट है भाई. So look at parts. Whereas right brain, you just see that the global learning is there for the right brain. It's random. It doesn't follow any pattern. It's not systematic. But don't say that the right brain is doing something wrong. No, they are the exceptional talented people will use, most of the time they will use right brain. So they go for the random thinking, intuitive. That means hunch is there that, okay, this could be the possibility. Nobody has told, but he or she within their mind to find the hunches that this can be there. Then it is holistic. It's the entire conceptualization is holistic. As a whole it thinks. So not the incremental analysis, this part, that part, no, and then combining, no. So as a holistic, the synthesizing. Once they collect the information, they synthesize the information. It's subjective. Subjective means that it is for you one thing, it's for you another thing. So this is subjective. And looks at wholes. So overall, I have already told you that it's a global learning process. Now that automatically as a scientist or as a technologist, you will know that no two brains can ever be similar. So naturally, any two persons will differ in response to the external stimuli because their brains are different. At least, even whatever be the thing, whatever be the quantitative value, but they will differ. If they differ, then the responses will also be different. And then they will also learn in a different style. So this is most important, which I want to convey, that they will learn in it. So that means our learning from here is that if we have n number of persons, then there is no denying that there can be n number of learning styles. Of course, whenever a random numbers are there, random system is there, that you can always find that thing in a band. So that's what, that is, they are almost similar. So that is the kind of thing. So that is a typical, very law of physics. So therefore you can do that. So learning styles will be different. And understanding learning style is equivalent to understanding the brain function. So if I can understand your learning style, that means I am able to understand the way your brain is functioning. So this is a very trivial issue. So extrapolated to teaching learning processes. So in the teaching learning process, two entity are there. One is the students or the learners, and the other one is the facilitators. They're called teachers, and they are called students. So this extrapolated, whenever you are coming to the extrapolate this concept to the teaching and learning styles or the processes, then both teachers and students must understand this thing, because one way I understand and you do not understand, then there will always be a mismatch. If I have to modify by seeing you, you have to modify also by seeing me. So you have to also study what is my teaching style. So unless this thing is married, the marriage can be organized between these two things. That the teaching line of a student, style of a student, and the teaching style of a teacher, and the learning style of a student, then that learning is not done. In today's scenario, it's not important that what you are talking or what a teacher is teaching. It's important what a student is learning. So that is the understanding of today's teaching learning process. So whatever big Professor Genius is has got no meaning unless he can make his students very learned in that particular aspects. So that is the trick. So if it is not done, then no teaching is done. Now, if you want to be a good educator, then what has to be there? That the quantum of learning is 10% when one reads. You have to understand my point. And then 20% when one hears. The 30% of what one sees. 50% of what one sees and hears. 30, 20, 50. 70% of what one says. 90% of what one says and do. So this is a very important thing. So says and do. I'm coming to that. Now, interestingly, if you take about 100 learners, then you will see that 20 auditory learners will be there. So who are basically fascinated or inclined to auditory learning, that means they want to hear. And then 40 will be the visual learners, so they want to see. So if I go on talking, the visual learners will be missing. So the classical teaching, a long time back, that is now halted in today's area, unless the visual aids are there. So this is important. Now, 90% of all teaching, that's a disease of all the teachers. That they think that they're all very big and they always go on talking. So therefore, they believe in auditory teaching. Their style is auditory. Whereas this means that if that is auditory, then only 20% auditory learners are there. So a great number of people are, set aside from the basic process of learning. So I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So this is a philosophy. Now, it's very important, as I said, that a student's desire to learn is important and to be responsive to a teaching. So that's why I say that it's not a one-way traffic. The teachers, students are equally responsible for making a teaching learning process successful. So this is important. That student is no one is not the thing. Any class, let us see that any class consists of a group of students, and the group of students, they will differ by their learning styles. Maybe you can categorize them. Some suppose out of 50 students, 5 in one particular group, 15 in another group, 20 in another group, and the rest is another group. So this is how that can be there. There's the law of probability. So that will be there. So in that case, what will be the goal of teacher? First of all, we set the goal. Then we will be talking about the pedagogical aspect, because this sets the pedagogy. This sets the pedagogy because once I know that how it is to be delivered, then it is because once I understand the students, then automatically is there. Because one teacher must understand that he or she has to handle a large number of teaching learning styles. So that trait has to be there within a teacher. So teacher's passion for guiding students must be integrated with taking responsibility of their learning. The teacher will come into a class, deliver lectures even with visual aids, notwithstanding what is going to your mind, not taking any interest about your affairs, even the pastoral matters. So it is a duty of the teacher to see what are the pastoral difficulties are there, which impede the learning of the process of that student. Maybe the student is exceptional learner. So that has to be. That is a duty and responsibility of a teacher in modern day pedagogy. Now, as I said that the act of imparting education to any particular student it must be in accordance with the individual strength and attitude. So what is the student attitude? What is his strength? And then you set your way. It's a duty, as I said, it's a duty to create open and relaxed environment. In a class, teacher has come. So he is very strict. No, if those days are gone, now we have to have a very relaxed environment where the students can be made frank to interact with the teachers. And then they will be able to, the teachers is more benefited than the student. Because if the teacher goes on deliberating, the students will learn by virtue of being very close to the teacher, environmentally. So this is important. So that sets another kind of pedagogical technique. So I'll be telling you, there I'll not be explaining, but I'll simply go on reading, and then you will see that they are matching with all this. Now we will try to understand that how do we learn. Basically, whenever a learner is there, then it receives the external information from the external world. How? Either through sensory channels. Sensory channels means the sound and sight. It's a sound, so you are sensing, sight, you are seeing, or intuitive or hunches. There are nothing else required. You are learning from your intuition. You are learning from your hunch. So that is also there. To handle those guys is a very, very difficult. Most of the times they are missed by the students, missed by the teachers, and then they are always poor in grades. So always head of the department round up to the director, the teacher, this bad boy or bad girl will not have anything to do with him or her. It's wrong, because he or she might be a global learner. So he is not very interested in the sequential learning. So whenever you are teaching one by one, he is not interested. All of a sudden he learns. So that's what I'm saying. Now this is one thing. And the sensory channels is either visual or auditory. I have already told you. The perceived information has to be organized to learn. How will you organize? Either through inductive manner or through deductive manner. So what is inductive manner? Information is organized by observing the facts and then inferring the underlying principles. Whereas deductive is consequences are deduced from the given principles. Now, when Newton discovered laws of gravitation, what did he do? He saw something to happen. So, observe the facts, and then the principal laws of gravitation he proposed. So, that is an inductive kind. What is a deductive? We are deducting that the Lorentz equation we are doing. So, equation is there, or the principles is there. The law of gravity is there, and then we are finding out the behavior. The Newton's laws of motion is there, and we are finding, we are describing. So that is a deductive, a manifestation of some event, and then from the principles we are deducing what is there. So most of the researches are being done like that. Now, after you have gathered those inductively or deductively, this organized information will now be processed either actively, or actively means that through engagement in the classroom or anywhere, in the physical activities, or reflectively through introspection. So whenever you are there, so if you do something, then that is the active way. If you do not do anything, but if you simply listen, and ultimately you see that what is going to happen. So if you learn it by hunches or intuition, the introspection of yours, that is another way of organizing. Finally, the progress towards Understanding takes place sequentially, in steps, or globally in large jumps. So this is the technique of learning. So that is the inherent science in the learning. I have already told you there is no concern of what is being taught. There is only concern is what is being learned, what is learned. I have already told you. Now let us go to a real life situation. The inductive mode is a natural learning style of most of the students. Inductive mode. Try to keep in your mind what was that. The facts is observed and the principles is deduced. So that is a common learning style of the students, a fresh mind, fresh brain. So they are. But most teachers, specifically in our technological and science technology area, they prefer didactic teaching. The kids decide that you will see that any teacher will come there and they will implement the didactic teaching technique. Now, how will you manage? The characteristic teaching styles are intuitive, verbal, deductive, reflective, and sequential for the learners. So that so many things are there. So therefore, that match has to be there. I'll show you. So these are the commonly observed learning styles. So again, these are not to be repeated. I have already told you. Now, once is here, the teaching style. Now, this will say everything. Now, the learning style for the students are sensory or intuition, and that is what creates perception. The corresponding teaching style can be concrete or abstract. That is, they can be very concrete in statements, or that can be abstract. Now, the other technique is the visual or auditory. That is the input. Either the input to your brain is a visual or auditory. And then the other side, the presentation, visual and auditory. What I am doing now. Now, what is the organization of information? Inductive, deductive. And teachers are also akin to that, inductive and deductively, they organize the information. Their learning, processing of information, either active or reflective. Active, I have already told you by doing. Reflective means the true introspection. So you will be processing the information. And then what teacher will do, they will be active or participation passive. So I may prefer that you are not talking. So that's a passive learners. I have made you all passive learners. So this is the one thing that is these are the two styles within the teachers. You can see. And then understanding can be sequential or global. In a single jump, it understands. Very complicated problem. And then the sequential or global perspective also. So one example I can give you. When I was a long time back, I was teaching one subject in my institution, and there was a student who was apparently, whenever I entered the class, then I found that he was not attentive. So several times I made this mistake of banging him or calling him and counseling him. I had the habit of counseling the students. What is wrong with you? Am I anything doing wrong? If I am not okay for you, so this is my. I used to introspect myself. Then my first terminal examination, I set a question which was totally based on thinking power and the mathematics. And then I gave 50 marks out of that. One out of 100, I gave 50 marks. Now, believe me that nobody could answer except that. So when he got the highest mark, the so-called first boy or first girl or second boy or second girl, they were astonished that what this gentleman is doing. This sir is of no use for us. This also happened in Emirate to us. So that's why I'm saying that global learners are there. So now I understand that what was that boy. So that boy was a global learner, but I was not able to diagnose it. So this is important for the teachers to know that some inattentiveness does not really mean that the student is not a good learner. Now, mismatches inevitable. We have to agree. So, sequence a balance is must. So, there has to be a balance between the teaching style and the learning style of the students. So, most significant learning style you have to take into your confidence. Which learning style do most students prefer? So I have given you some hints. So these are the reality. So you have to take those things. Type of teaching styles are favored. What kind of teaching styles are favored by the teachers? Now this time the student's responsibility is there. It's not single way responsibility that the teacher has to understand those things, accept it. But the students are also intelligent. So they have to understand the traits of the teacher or the styles of the teaching. So if they slightly change their learning mode, then they can very easily go along the teachers. So this is a two-way traffic. This is missed most of the times by both the students as well as by the teachers. Students very easily rate a teacher to be a bad teacher. He can't explain. So, and as a student, as a teacher, miscalculates a student's talent, the similar thing is there. The students also do that. Now let us see that let us now do this thing. That what I will say, then motivate learning as much as possible. So what you should do is that, this is a pedagogical aspect. Whatever you are going to discuss with the students in the next class, in the previous class, you should give them some kind of understanding that this is going to be there. So this will be helpful for the global learners or the inductive learners because they will be thinking that thing. So you have to make a concrete balance between the facts, data, the relevant to sensing, and the abstract concepts, the principles and all those things, theories. So these are all abstract concepts. And then when something is seen, then that is a real reality. Then the teachers must be believing in giving us problems for solving. So naturally the teaching has to have this component, the pedagogy has to have this component, the problem solving methods. So, and not necessarily that you have to do it in my presence. No. So you set the problems, they can do it in their homes. They should be given to even discuss with their friends. Because our objective is that the students ultimately finally learns. So this is the objective. Now, give the learners a feeling of fun. So unless they feel a fun of learning, then the learning is incomplete. Again, I say that it is not the only teacher's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the students also. It is the responsibility of the system also. Quite often, we set the system in such a fashion that this has to be done, that has to be done. Teachers should be evaluated, the students should be evaluated there. So this is one. So illustrations have to be given. Now, if teachers go on seriously lecturing, then they will miss many things. So therefore, what is there? The theory may be developed for the intuitive, inductive, and sequential learners, whereas showing how the theory can be validated, deducing its consequences and presenting it, that the deductive learners, deductive or the sensory learners, and the sequential learners. So you have to create a balance so that this part and that part, every component is there in your pedagogy. So that you have to understand the principle. The teachers have to understand this principle. Now, what I should do? This is again, you will not say that is a classical pedagogy. I feel that it is that. Why? Because you have to give some pause. Whenever you are lecturing, if I give some pause, then what is that the students are doing? So first they can talk to their friends just by the side. By that they get relaxed. Or secondly, they can discuss with their students, friends, then they learn it. Or third, they can eliminate the fatigue. So in fact, after 20 minutes, the one gentleman or gentle lady cannot hear a person. quite diligently, quite attentively. So therefore, 20 minutes is the time which is researched. So therefore, you have to give some kind of pause. So whether so that they can regain another 20 minutes from the first minute it does. And then some of the time you have to spend gossiping with the students so that students become free to ask you questions. Any question? Nothing is going to happen. No student will ask. They will think that I am going to ask you a silly question and I'll be banned by the teacher. So no, so that's the wrong pedagogy. So you have to start. Previously, you have to give previous information about what is going to happen in the next class. Then you pause, you ask some questions. Okay, you solve it. 3 minutes time. Answer. So these are kind of the event of learning has to be made such kind of active. So once you can make that active, then the learning will be. So traditional methods, all you know, that the students remain passive. As you are all passive, I am talking. Because here no scope is given by Professor Chides. So I have to give a lecture and naturally nobody will ask. So this is the one thing. But in my normal classes, I do not do that. I always make the students very busy. If they are afraid of me, then that's not my fault. But I always try to say that nothing is to be feared. So you should do as a teacher the project-based learnings. So where the students have to use their minds and thought processes. Original thinking will be there, the project-based learnings. And then I'll say that this kind of thing, the greater learning, participation of students or in learning is wanted. For that, you allow the students to be cooperative learning, the participative learning. The participative learning is there. Sometimes it is also, but totally participated learning, then they will be talking about the new movies which have come. So that's not the reason. The reason you have to judiciously add things. Ultimately, the students benefit and the teachers benefit. Because the teacher is always handicapped that it is no teaching unless the students learn. So it has to be realized. Then the development of soft skill. So that's what they have also organized the soft skill in the FDP. The soft skill you have to do there. But everyone has got this. MTech students, the PhD students, the undergraduate students have also have this. The basic optimization technique, basic simulation technique, all those things, and any other soft skills. What was required in 10 years back or 15 years back as a soft skill, today it has changed. So communication ability, all these things. And then you have to see something that higher retention of knowledge for a higher period of time, or the greater length of time. So you have to devise means. So this is possible only through active. Now, the inductive mode of teaching learning process. What does teaching? It is another way of pedagogy. Now I'm entering into that. The teacher will throw a challenging problem to the students. And this is also a challenge to the teacher as a natural teaching style is didactic. So it is now going for the inductive kind of mode. So you just give a challenging problem and the students will ultimately come out with new ideas. The inquiry-based learning, you just give a problem where the solution, finding the answer is the main thing, that they will find the answer. That means they will use their introspection and then ultimately a good teaching learning will be there. Then web-based learning, this is also very important because as I was saying that the students are having a lot of information these days. So unless the web-based learning is there, unless you make, nothing is confidential. You should say what is there. If it is something copied from website, you say that this website is not needed, that you always very diligently listen to my lecture. That's there. So there is no point. And then the cooperative learning, I've already told you that what is that cooperative learning. Then we will now evaluate the principles of good teaching. The mindset of students in learning process is continuously changing. A very important change. That whatever learning styles or the learning propensity was there some 10 years back, it has There has been a sea change. Why? Because there has been a sea change in the advancement of science and technology, and they are also genetically different variety. Because the evolution says that you are much more intelligent than what I am. So that is how the human civilization is sustained. So therefore, that this is particular. This can be a short term, this can be a longer term. It can be 50 years, it can be 10 years. So therefore, you have to know that this mindset is continuously changing. So your teacher, as a teacher, you have to be very, very dynamic. So what you feel that you are right at this moment, tomorrow you have to change yourself. You find that the students are behaving differently. So this is a great challenge, I tell you. It's not so easy. It's easy to say, but very difficult to do. But it's a very pleasant thing if you can do, if you can win the minds of the students, and if the students can win the teacher, then that's a very good game. It's a good game of educative learning. Then you have to create an ambience of the live contact between the teachers and the students. So there should not be any barrier between the two students. At least for the senior students, definitely the teachers should do. Of course, today in student scenario, teachers do. Teachers keep their mobile number, the students call, and they receive that call. So these things have changed. Now, to foster advanced learning, it is imperative that an entirely new set of principles are followed by the teacher. What I used to follow some 40 years back must not be followed by me today itself. So I have to change continuously. I've been changing because I have already understood that what is this. The students are becoming intelligent, they are becoming, unless you are attractive to the students are not going to listen to you. It's not their fault. So they are more capable than you. So that's why if handling these kind of students, every year that is changing. And if you go from class from mechanical to materials, then you will say that a different mindset is there. So therefore, if you want to handle those things as a teacher per se, then what should be the pedagogy? To encourage the student-teacher contact, to enhance the cooperation among learners. So even the learners should not be diverse from one from others. So they should also be a single group. So they should be interactive amongst themselves. And that is why you have to pay attention to active learning. So our system was good, is not that bad. The practical and all those things, that's active learning. But this active learning can also be invoked in the 40 minutes or 50 minutes class. Then the assessment of students. The assessment must be the formative assessment first, then you can go for the final assessment. So if you say that I'll be taking class tests, you take few class tests, then you say that these are the wrong things, that this is how you have to answer. And then out of say 10 tests, you take the best of the students. So best 2 or 3, and that should be your assessment. So once you are also pro-learning, then you can do that. If you are not, if you are dogmatic, you won't do it. Students will be afraid, the learning will not be done. But you can see in your institution also, in your department also, at the undergraduate level, what's happening. One teacher is coming, Professor Bhargav, metallurgy department, he was saying that today's students are not listening. Then I told him, why so will they listen to him unless you give them something new? Because they are very intelligent, they know all this information which he will be saying. You say something. Your objective should be to track the students in your process. The time management is another important thing for the teacher as well as for the students. Because if the class is 8, you should be present. Both the students and the teachers should be present at 8. That means 59 minutes, 60 seconds. You have to be there in the class. And you always interact with the students to clarify this. So someone will say that hostel is not giving me the due time, your breakfast. Someone will say that in hostel that there was no water. I could not take my bath. So these will be there. That kind of pleas will be there. But once you say All the time I always say, all of you, that you will see that if you give it what? Like the guys who are married. So if they say to their wives that, okay, you come there at 4, I'll be there. So he will not be missing 4. But if he goes there at 3:30 again, he is doing wrong. He has to be there at 4:30 and more normal. And on the student side, if any two friends decide to enjoy, to go for a restaurant or for a movie, okay, let's meet at 4:30 there at that particular, and you will see that they are coming. Then why in the class they are late? Because they are not sick. Suppose someone is late, kid, trying very hard, but cannot do. Then you set your time 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier. Okay, my time is quarter to 8. Then it will be time. But if you say that my time is 8:15, by that only you will be present because you are quite capable. We are quite capable. What we are not doing is that we are not using our capability on the student front as well as on the teacher's front. So suggestive steps, I have already told you many of the things. Another important thing I would say that in the student scenario, the computer savviness is there and the student gets entertainment to the act of TV. So in TV, what happens? And all the time the pictures skills are changing. So a teacher should always move so that they can have a feeling of looking at the TV. Unless you do that, if straight that way, and then people will not really, the students will not really laugh because they will not listen, gazing at you only at a single place. Because they are habituated all the time to look here, here, here. So that you have to see that this is a trend. So therefore, that is there. And then use of visual aid and voice and movement to hold attention. As I have already told you, that the TV changes camera angle, you also change the angle of the visual activity of the students. So once I'm there, then you will be looking at that. Once I'm there, you will look at. So this is what you prefer. Because you are akin to that, you have practiced. Then it is a lecture you have to bring, and ultimately you have to conclude something as a teacher. Now, I'll also suggest that open source courseware is also there. So empower the minds of the students to the open source courseware. Even the institution, when I was in here, I said that you should be a member of the open courseware platform, and you could also upload your teaching material there so that other students can be benefited. There's a free, but there's a subscription based. Free to the students, but the subscription based to the participants, institution participants. Then this is the trend, the outcome-based learning systems. That is, you have to see what is the outcome of that teaching learning, whether they have really learned. So outcome is most important. And this has been nowadays, this has been quantified in the global learning aspect. The world, what is that called? Washington Accord. In the Washington Accord, they have already set the norms. And India is a signatory of Washington Accord. So therefore, India is obliged to do that. Indian teachers are obliged to do that. So therefore, it is very important that you have to create a repository, you have to join the repository of knowledge, and then the students will automatically fish it out from there. Then always you have to make the ambience very clear that this will be creativity will be used, or the students have to be creative in their learning process. How? I have already told you what is the problem in your pedagogy. I have already told you the pedagogy should follow this thing. That all the time you will see, you have to see the students have it, and you must remember that most of the informations are available in the. So what is then the teacher will be doing? It will simply give a route of faster learning. So that's the only thing that you should share your experience. As I have already described, you should be convinced now that nobody is able to teach anyone else. So only the learners learn by themselves. So how will they learn? What is the path of least resistance that I can suggest by virtue of my experience, by virtue of the present state of affairs. So these are the things. So lastly, what I will say that you will be really a good teacher if you really are a good student. So the mainly at the end of the day is the teacher to fix their own teaching patterns. With this question is mine, which I have thrown this question to all of us. That in current information age, why would a student like to learn from me? So this is the challenge. If you can't solve the challenge, everything is done. Thank you for sparing me. So this is what is there. We don't do it. Let's try to do it. I'm trying it sincerely. Although I'm very old, but I'm trying it. Whenever I enter your thing. मतलब पहले खत्म कर दिया मैं बच्चे लोग को क्वेश्चन आ गया है
ऑडियंस ऑनलाइन लोगों से बात करनी
हाँ बोलो क्वेश्चन नहीं करेगा यस करो